Warlord Kraxith stood before the holographic display, his forearms crossed in confident superiority, as Earth rotated slowly before him. The blue marble hung in space like a prize waiting to be claimed, and Kraxith's mandibles clicked in what passed for laughter among his species. "Humans," he sneered to his assembled commanders. "A species that achieved spaceflight barely 2 centuries ago. They have no plasma shields, no quantum drives, no graviton weaponry. They are children playing with chemical rockets." His fleet stretched across the void, 3,000 warships, each capable of glassing a continent. The Krexian Dominion had conquered 47 star systems in the past decade alone. What was one more primitive world? The transmission from Earth High Command had arrived that morning. A single human woman, gray-haired and stern-faced, had appeared on screen with an official statement. "Warlord Kraxith, we urge you to reconsider your invasion. Humanity wishes for peace, but we will defend ourselves if necessary. You have 48 hours to withdraw your fleet." Kraxith had laughed so hard his thorax ached. Defend themselves with what? Their pitiful kinetic weapons? Their adorably slow missiles? The Krexian shields could deflect anything these primitives threw at them. "Send them our response," Kraxith commanded. "We reject their ultimatum. We will begin orbital bombardment in 48 hours. Let them watch their cities burn from space." The first night passed uneventfully. Kraxith's fleet maintained position at the edge of Earth's solar system, a wall of metal and menace that darkened the stars themselves. But on the second night, something changed. It started with the outer perimeter, 50 ships stationed near Neptune's orbit. They simply vanished. No distress signals, no explosions, no debris. One moment they existed, tracked on every sensor and scanner. The next moment, empty space. Kraxith's communications officer turned 3 of his eyes toward the Warlord. "Sir, we've lost contact with Battle Group Theta." "Sensor malfunction," Kraxith dismissed. "Recalibrate and—" Another group disappeared. Then another. Like candles being snuffed out by an invisible hand, Kraxith's mighty fleet began to dissolve into nothing. Panic rippled through the command ship. Crews scrambled to their stations, desperately scanning for enemies, for weapons fire, for anything that could explain the impossible disappearances. "Full retreat!" Kraxith roared. "All ships, maximum velocity, away from—" 600 ships vanished simultaneously. The remaining vessels scattered in every direction, abandoning formation, abandoning discipline, abandoning everything except the primal instinct to survive. But it made no difference. Whether they fled toward Jupiter or Mars, toward the outer dark or the inner planets, the result was the same. One by one they winked out of existence. Kraxith watched his tactical display with mounting horror as the icons representing his fleet disappeared like stars at dawn. His claws dug into the command console, scoring deep grooves in the metal. "What are they using?" he whispered. "What weapon is this?" His science officer's voice trembled. "Sir, there's no energy signature. No particle beams, no antimatter, no dimensional rifts. Our ships aren't being destroyed, they're just gone." Within 6 hours, only Kraxith's command ship remained. It hung alone in the void, surrounded by the echoing silence where 3,000 warships had been. Then the transmission came. The same gray-haired woman appeared on screen, but this time she wasn't alone. Behind her stood a council of humans in military uniforms, their expressions carved from stone. "Warlord Kraxith," she began, her voice calm but edged with steel. "You assumed we were primitives because our technology looked primitive to you. You assumed we were weak because we asked for peace. These were fatal errors in judgment." Kraxith's mandibles trembled. "Where is my fleet?"
"What have you done?"
"Your fleet is intact," she replied. "Every ship, every crew member completely unharmed. They're currently in high orbit around a planet in a galaxy approximately 200 million light-years from here. We've provided them with enough supplies to last until they figure out how to get home. We estimate it will take your scientists approximately 800 years to develop the mathematics necessary to understand how we moved them." The Warlord's primary heart skipped a beat. "That's impossible. No species can manipulate space on that scale. The energy requirements alone would be impossible using conventional physics," the woman interrupted. "But you see, Warlord, humanity learned something important early in our spacefaring age. We learned that when you're the weakest species in the galaxy, you can't rely on building bigger guns. You have to think differently." She leaned forward, and for the first time Kraxith saw something in her eyes that made his combat instinct scream danger. While other species perfected plasma weapons and shields, we perfected something else. We learned to fold space itself. Not to travel through it, that's crude and energy intensive. No, we learned to simply relocate things. To edit the universe's source code, if you will. Your fleet isn't destroyed, Warlord. It's just somewhere else now. Somewhere very, very far away. Kraxith felt his certainty crumbling. You're bluffing. If you had such power, you would rule the galaxy. The woman smiled, but it held no warmth. We don't want to rule the galaxy, Warlord. We just want to be left alone to explore it in peace. But make no mistake. Any species that threatens Earth or her colonies will find their fleets relocated to interesting new locations. Perhaps inside a star. Perhaps in intergalactic space. Perhaps in another universe entirely. We have options. She stood and the image began to fade. Your ship will be sent home as a courtesy. A warning to others who might share your assumptions about humanity. Tell them what happened here. Tell them that the species they thought primitive has learned to move mountains without touching them. Tell them that humanity asked for peace first and always will. But tell them also, her eyes hardened to chips of ice, that if they refuse our peace, they'll discover we've had 200 years to prepare for every possible war. The transmission ended. Moments later, Kraxith's ship lurched, not through space, but through something else, something his instruments couldn't measure. When the sensation ended, his homeworld hung before him, dozens of light years from where he'd been seconds before. In the command center of Earth Defense, the gray-haired admiral turned to her staff. Send a message to all human colonies. The buffer zone is secure. We've bought ourselves another few decades of peace. A young officer spoke up hesitantly.
Ma'am, what if they come back with larger fleets?
Admiral Chen smiled. Then we'll have to show them what happens when you give a species with opposable thumbs, pattern recognition, and spite 2 centuries to prepare for war. She looked out at the stars. At the vast darkness now a little bit safer for humanity. After all, she said softly, we're not primitives. We're humans, and we've always been very, very good at making the impossible possible. In the depths of space, 3,000 confused Krexian warriors tried to figure out where they were, why the stars were wrong, and why they'd ever thought conquering humanity was a good idea. Somewhere in a universe that was starting to learn respect, humanity continued reaching for the stars. Peacefully. Hopefully, but never, ever, helplessly.